What's going on, guys? We are here at Porsche of Tampa. They have supplied us with, guess what?
992.
The 992, guys. It's here. We're going to get our grubby little hands all over it. We're going to do an intensive review on this thing because this is the biggest thing in 911 world in a long time, right?
Exactly.
So we're super excited. Thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing. And welcome to the channel. Welcome to P-Car Talk. And let's go ahead and roll that intro and get into our stuff, right?
Let's do it.
Guys, 992 is finally here in the US, and your favorite guys have got a hold of one for the P-Car family. To let you guys know, we want to go ahead and start off by thanking Porsche of Tampa, the Reeves family, for supplying this car and letting us get driving impressions for you guys at home. Initial impressions, outstanding place to be in here. It's unbelievable. I'm so happy to be in here right now. It's ridiculous.
Lots of room.
Yeah. And air-conditioned seats for the beard. He likes that.
Beard does like that. And there's a lot. I feel like even though it's a wide car, I don't think they've lost the interior feel of a big 911.
I totally agree with that.
I feel like it's the same. It feels the same as any other thing we've driven. 991-ish.
Yeah, I totally agree. Steering feel feels amazing. Super, super tight. It's a 911, it should. So we're in the 2020 Carrera S.
Yep.
So not the 4S, the 2S, which is nice, which is super, super nice. I like the way this is optioned. It's definitely...
No, there's nothing to wear out on the interior.
We didn't look at the actual spec sheet, but I think this is like a polar silver or Arctic silver.
I would probably along the lines, it's probably Arctic.
Arctic silver, okay.
I think it's just silver.
Yeah.
Silver for all.
Yeah, racing silver, whatever Porsche wants to call this. It's a good looking car. In this particular, in the 992, we've seen it in a lot of variations. We've seen it in yellow, red, all these. But honestly, I know this may not sound as sexy to say, but it really looks good in silver.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Porsche classic color looks really good in silver, really good in black.
I don't know if it just accentuates things better in the silver color, or if it's just because it's silver and black and that color combo always looks good.
Yeah, that's a good point. These seats are nice. I think these are the comfort seats. I don't think these are the sport seats. Yeah, actually, I'm almost positive these aren't the sport seats. But they're still nice. There's still enough bolster here.
Yeah, I feel like they're a little sporty.
Aaron made some good points about the interior.
Yeah.
I'll let you go ahead and go over that.
It really looks like they let the art department go on this one and do what they wanted to. And when you start looking at the interior, you'll see a lot of angular designs, more of a almost 90 degrees in a lot of places. And if you start looking around, you'll see where stuff's floating.
Can you talk through that?
Yeah, I can. So even though people have complained about like the middle where the shifter's at, it's kind of got crevices around it. Well, you see where that lends itself to where the steering wheel control buttons are. And then you start looking at the dash. Something in person that I haven't really noticed in pictures is how inset the dash is compared to how it looks. It looks like it's all kind of one piece, but they've carried this trim and what looks like a braided metal, which it's not. At least in this car, it's not. It's a plastic, which is a difference in itself.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up that I find pretty interesting, right? This, I don't know if it's a bioplastic. I don't know what it is, but it does feel a little strange. But I know I complain a lot about the finishing on some of the other cars we reviewed. I'll tell you the finish on this, maybe it might not feel the best as far as like sound wise. I don't know if you hear that tapping, but I like it aesthetically because it looks good and it's very Porsche-esque in the sense, and what I mean, it's utilitarian. It's not this trying to be some luxury car, even though, I mean, it is expensive, don't get me wrong, but I kind of like the feel of that. I like the tactile feels of all of this.
It's back to the volcanic ash color, actually, the 997s that they used a lot, as this style is.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And then, obviously, you know, we've got the door handle pop outs, which is kind of a cool feature where they wing up when you come to unlock the car, or if you put a sensor. That's a pretty cool feature. It's very I guess streamlined to tuck that in to make it look cleaner.
There.
To make it look cleaner.
And it's still good too. It's still a pretty satisfying click as you hold the door open. It's not, because you would see they look thin. And that's the appearance on the outside, but really it's just like any other 911 door handle you've had, or a more recent one.
And like Aaron said, the interior is a lot more angular than you're used to seeing. So it's not, basically it's a whole new car. It's not a 991.2 dressed up with a little bit of different stuff. It's totally different. Totally different.
And like I was saying, anywhere you can see something, like the vents look like they're floating, the gauges look like they're floating. It's very a modern art design, which is
and the steering wheel, like there's these little the dials for the volume control and the voice activation control, that's floating. The center shifter area, that's floating, with a lot of people don't seem to like the little mini shifter. But I kind of want to touch on that for a minute, because a lot of people don't address this. The way that was designed from an art and engineering standpoint, if they had a huge shifter in here, guys, and you can see it on the video when we do over the interior portion, there's toggles and switches that are behind this shifter, and there's an air vent. So if there was a huge shifter here, the entire dash makeup would have to change just because of the shifter. So what they probably did instead, which is a smart thing to do from an engineering standpoint, why don't we just make the shifter smaller instead of change the entire dash configuration?
And they've gotten rid of all the buttons on the sides of the shifter.
Correct.
On both sides.
Correct.
So they've simplified it in that fashion.
Yeah, so there's toggle switches. It kind of makes you feel like you're in an airplane, which I totally like. And then there's toggle switches down below that, integrated with some circular dials and some touchscreen stuff. So they kind of, I think,
some tactile feel in there.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of integrating tactile feel, old school style toggles with new school touchscreen things. I think that's a very challenging thing to do. Correct?
I really think with this 992 design, they reached back to across the whole line of the 911 and picked what they wanted to. Almost they singer-esque into making a modern version of what they wanted the 911 to be, because it looks like a 993 from the front to me in some of the lines, but then in the interior, like you said, like they have the center tack gauge and all these buttons that harken back to those things, which it's really neat that they've done it this way.
Which I can definitely appreciate from being kind of an old school mindset, that at least the analog gauge is still there in the center, and they've integrated two screens, making it, trying to integrate old school and new school. Is it the best thing in the world? I don't know. I think it was the best thing that they could come up with at the time, so to make everyone kind of happy, if that makes sense. Because there's, if you ever get up close and personal, which some of you guys will see in our video, these are actually like just LCD screens that are essentially right next to the digital, the analog gauge.
And again, those are floating as well. They're out from it. It's not just sunk in.
And then in addition, everything with the steering wheel is still in the same spot. The drive modes are in the same location, what they are in almost all Porsches nowadays.
But that one doesn't have the S Plus, the S and stuff on it like the old ones.
Yeah, it just says drive mode, and then within the screen it tells you exactly where you're going to be at, just like all the other ones on a digital layout.
I guess they might as well use the digital screen that they have versus.
Yeah, try to interface it somehow. I think that makes total sense. Aaron brought up a good thing with the cup holder, if you want to pull that out and then cut to that in the video.
Yeah, there's a secret, not a secret cup holder, at least I haven't. Everybody talks about the middle one, but I haven't seen anybody touch the side one.
Yeah, so the passenger has their own cup holder way over there, which is nice. There's a center cup holder, which is interesting. I guess it depends on what you end up having here, but essentially you shouldn't really be living in this area anyways, as far as what you need to do. Has a really large sunroof, which is really nice. One touch, and it's so large, obviously it doesn't like go into the roof line. It sits on the outside of it to open up, which is pretty cool. So it has everything that you can imagine. One of my bugaboos I always complain about in the videos is Alcantara. Yeah. This particular one is not spec'd that way, which I love. The door grabs and the door pulls are this ribbed kind of like plastic, so it seems super durable.
It's following suit with the rest of
it. It matches the dash pattern with this kind of ABS. The handles are brushed like steel, and it's kind of, it all flows very well together. Aaron mentioned a very interesting thing earlier in regards to the car interior itself. Everything is angular. There's no really rounded off. Things are very sharp, and I think it flows to the exterior of the car as well, because we described that on the outside. Even though it has wide haunches, and it looks beautiful from the outside, I mean absolutely beautiful, right? It's still in the front is pretty angular.
The hood has a hard line now instead of any type of circular where the crest is, and then even the side mirrors are having a bit of an angle to them. It's definitely a neat execution of a new design.
Yep, Sport Plus manual. Let's blast off.
That's moving around.
She's fast. It's like a scalpel, man. I don't care what anybody says. That 3-liter sounds good. They're like, oh, the turbos mess it up. It sounds amazing.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I wish there were some more crackles in it, though.
I think that you can easily put that on.
I'm sure an exhaust does that. You know what? That's that upper RPM is a little GT car.
Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it? That howl.
Yep.
The howl is there.
It's very much, somebody was like, well, I want that in my car.
Yeah, it's almost the way the intake is set up, where it's making that howling noise.
Yep.
Sounds outstanding. But everything else, suspension, transmission type feel as it should be. The paddles feel really good in this. They're well refined. There's plenty of space behind it, even with my fat hands. And I'm only quarter throttle, and this thing is just impressive. No problems with merging into traffic, that's for sure. It does have that GT howl.
That intake noise. They did that right.
I know you guys can pick that up because it's a high pitch. That is a really interesting note that's with it. And I never would have expected the Carrera S to sound like that.
No, not at all. And I'm glad they did it. I can tell you that. That's interesting that they're able to do that. Because I thought it was just really
yeah, it's impressive.
9,000 RPM.
Yeah.
That style of intake.
Yeah, because that noise is coming on right around 5,500.
Yep.
Yeah, it's impressive. That noise, I love that sound. It's intoxicating, right? Yep. Like, that's an intoxicating noise.
And it's super,
I just want to make that noise happen over and over again. No, but in all seriousness, it's amazing. So this car redlines at right around 7,400 RPMs. We didn't even get close to that. I mean, we were shifting like probably at 68. So you could wind it out even. Yeah,
it's very linear power.
It is. There isn't a lot of turbo lag because it is a 3-liter twin turbo. If anybody who's watching doesn't know, but it definitely, modern technologies have figured out a way to get turbo lag out of the cars. So this thing winds up quick. I think we were at what, 449 horsepower or something like that?
60.
Something like that. Don't quote me on that. I know it's out there. It's for you guys to read. It's all over the internet. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm pretty close, plus or minus 10, whatever.
It's a good deal of power.
So torque is pretty equal to power, just because we're turbocharged. So ample amount of power.
More than ample, I think.
I think so too. I totally agree with that. I dare to say, I would never say more than enough, but it's definitely more than enough. Like, you don't drive this feeling like you need more power.
No, I think it dances around a little bit too. I mean, you get on it.
Yeah, the butt wiggles a little bit, which is also a great thing. You want that in a car.
And it's wide. It's got mechanical grip, and it's still putting it down as best as it can.
So if you guys are worried out there that this thing is not a 911, don't worry, it is a 911.
100%.
And I think that's the biggest, I guess, barrier I want to break down with a lot of people. They always think like, well, it's not a 911, it's too big, it's too this, it's too that. And everybody's like complains about the shifter. And I think people just want to complain about things because honestly, if there was a huge shifter here, everybody would complain about the shifter being in the way of the vents and all the toggle switches in here. It's this reality. So Porsche as a whole did the best thing ergonomically for everybody.
Yep, they totally did, and you don't see that until you get in the car, or until you drive the car. I mean, you can talk about it all you want to, from the
I just like doing that to you where your head snaps back.
Well, because I know that I'm prepping for it.
I told you, like, you gotta lean the head back so you get like
wildlife drive, just immediately.
Instead of having the Barker lounge, you got the Barker lounger out over there with the.
It's a weird feel too.
But I think this is obviously, it should be the evolution of the 911, which it always has been from the beginning. It keeps getting better. It keeps getting more efficient. It keeps getting faster. It just keeps getting better at all the things you want it to be able to do. It's more capable than the last one, which is incredible to say, but it really is. It's incredible to say that it's faster than the last one. It's incredible to say that it's more capable than the last one, but it is. It really is. It's a total evolution.
And once it goes hybrid,
yeah, unbelievable. It's like it'll probably spool those turbos up from 1,000 RPM if you want. Like just keeping them spooled the whole time, almost kind of rally car-esque.
It's more. I mean, I always say it's more powerful than I guys anticipated it to be.
Yeah.
I just made a Carrera S.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And there's elegance and style involved in it as well. So again, home run for Porsche on this. Like I expected it to be. When I first saw renderings of it, before I even saw one in person, I will throw myself on the sword. I was like, yeah, it looks huge. It's way too big. It's all this. But I'll be totally honest with you guys, because not I'm fanboying at all. In person, it looks a lot less big than you think it does. I mean, that's not to discredit saying that it's a larger vehicle than most 911s. Don't get me wrong. But it's not as big as the photos give it the impression is.
And I had a thought. I just had a thought. I would like to see this right next to the Taycan.
Yeah.
Because I feel that even though there's 4 doors in that car, it wouldn't be. It's not much bigger than this.
I agree. I totally agree. All right, launch control. Put your head back so you don't get like whiplash.
So don't die. You ready?
All right, sorry. Angry. All right, I'm dizzy. I really like the design. I think all the critics that have maybe gotten this car way before us in Europe, because this thing just landed in the US, obviously, and we didn't get invited to the press launch or whatever that stuff is. But I think everybody's giving this car a hard time for what it is and what it's capable of, just to be complaining about something.
I think you're 100% right. They're trying to be nitpicky because they're having a hard time finding things to be nitpicky about with the car.
Like the 911 is still the benchmark.
Yeah, whether they
even with this model. So everyone is chasing this car to try to be this car, the ultimate sports car.
Yep.
This car can literally do it all. It has normal mode, wet mode, which is new, so you won't kill yourself in the rain. Sports Plus, Sport. I don't know why you'd ever drive it anything other than Sport Plus. It sounds amazing. And we talked earlier about the howl that it makes.
Oh yeah, the intake noise. And right away, the steering is money.
Yeah.
That steering is maybe the heaviest weighted Sports Plus steering I've felt. I don't know if that's...
I totally agree. And let me tell you something, guys. We drove this thing in stop and go traffic. We saved you from that, so you guys didn't have to see that because that's really boring.
It does do stop and go.
But the positive note about the stop and go traffic, if there is anything positive about it, the positive thing about it is this thing does what it needs to do flawlessly in that traffic.
Like a champ. He's like a champ.
And I took it out of Sport Plus and just put it in normal mode, let it do its own thing and
Which
behave.
He doesn't normally do at all.
Yeah, and let it behave the way it wanted to behave with the stop and go traffic. Not a problem. It wasn't hunting, not that it would anyways, but total sweetheart in that type of traffic. And then it opens back up, you put it in Sport Plus, ready to go. And oh yeah, by the way, it launches super hard. I'm sure you guys have seen that already on launch control. That's our launch control test.
It's so good. I mean, it does so many things well, and what you would expect from a 911, it delivers in spades. I mean, it's quicker than you think it would be because it's bigger, so it's gonna be slower, right? No.
Yeah, this thing is multiple personalities, and usually that's a negative term used because it's a psychological deficiency, obviously. But this car having multiple personalities is a major benefit, right?
Super asset. I mean, it's probably the most dailyable, if that's a word.
You just made it one, of course it is. I agree with that 110%. I know we've said this about many cars because a lot of Porsches are good. So I'm not going to apologize for that because all of those things that I said were accurate. I wasn't embellishing. But really, this also, if you're in the flavor of you just want a 911 and you want to be able to daily it to the office, go on weekend trips, you want to take it to the track, this really is the ultimate fighter in that situation.
It is. I mean, I can definitely say that, like we always say, there can be a compliment. You can have a GG car in this car and
it'd still be happy.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to.
Just watch out, this guy is
Just do it.
owning the road. You can make a right here if you want, and then go up one road and then go around him. But this is an amazing car. Watch out, stop sign, brother.
Up this road.
Yeah. So let's hit them. Brakes feel outstanding. Suspension feels outstanding.
Steering wheel.
Power delivery outstanding. There's no turbo lag.
No.
Steering feel outstanding. The seats are great, even though these aren't sports seats. These are comfort seats,
Yeah.
but they're still great. Are there any negatives that you can think of? I know you kind of didn't like the plastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, for price point, I think there can be a little less plastic. I'm not saying nothing I couldn't live without, I guess. The spoiler for me aesthetically is still weird. It's just big.
I agree with that.
I hope maybe that'll change with the Dodge 2 iteration.
No, I think your eyes will just change. I think you'll get used to it because that's not going to change. Watch out for this guy right here. Are you being ultra cautious, man? Like it. I feel like sometimes at slow speed, you're dangerous.
I'm just taking it all in.
But I think overall, is this the business?
I think it definitely is the business.
The business.
It's for sure.
Hands down. I think it's another win for Porsche as a whole, the 911. Yeah, we've been criticized as 911 fanboys. We both have 911s, but honestly, they have a lot of cars that are great within the lineup. But this is your pinnacle. This is your pedestal in the sports car area.
That's really how we got everything else.
Yeah. Power, like I said, power delivery is outstanding in this. It really is really good. And for the most part, I know you said something about the plastics, and just like anything, this is the initial. I'm sure there'll be like tweaks as time goes on with this. Maybe that'll change some, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what it's going to look like. And if it is, I like the final product.
There could be other trim levels that we're just not. I mean,
That's true. That is this particular trim on this car. This is a dealer demo for them to basically let clients fall in love like we did.
Yeah, I can see it being pretty easy.
So it's probably a lot more durable because then they picked it that way on purpose. So kudos for them for doing that. Its road presence is incredible, right? It's this big honking beast.
It is.
You look in the mirrors and it's got these arches, and you really notice how wide it is when you stand behind it, of course. Like, you see it from the front, it looks kind of wide, but the rear is when you really can tell. It's just got this bulldog shoulder stance in it, and it's just a monster.
And the good thing is now, you don't have to go wide body or narrow body, wide body or narrow body.
Yeah.
There's no debate. There's just not a narrow body anymore.
And I think one of the interesting things too is there's a back seat. I did the back seat. No. I did the back seat test. I mean, I'm not that big of a guy.
Do you feel
It was tight. Like, my head was leaning against the ceiling. So back to, can an adult get back there? Probably not. Maybe a petite female or petite male. And definitely some children though. So I think this is a super win for Porsche. We're super ecstatic to have been able to drive this car.
Those engine noises.
Yeah,
That's
the intake noise.
That's good.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. This bad boy right here was a blast to drive. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. We would appreciate it a ton. If you love Porsche content, we're going to keep putting it out there, so get on board. Also, every time we click over 1,000, you guys are going to win an item. So that's a win-win for you guys. We want to thank Porsche of Tampa so much for supplying the 992, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. These birds are singing, and so are we. See you later.